And welcome also from my side to everyone. Good afternoon. We are happy to see the second webinar we host on this topic after a small pause that we've taken, so well attended. So I think we probably will be thinking about a third session in a few months. I know that at least from the information we saw regarding the subscription that you come from different organizations, both public and private, which is very encouraging for us. That's exactly what we want to see. In particular, since we also distributed the invitation to the once only technical system community, I know that some of you join us also with an eye on the implementation of eDelivery in that context. So we hope all of you will find some initial information in the webinar today, and even a hands-on first experience with eDelivery that will then help you start from a different place when you get going with your own deployment and configuration. Joanna will do that together with you in around 20 minutes from now. But before we get there, let me please also provide a little bit of a context around eDelivery. For those of you who are not familiar with eDelivery or with the Digital Europe building blocks that we are providing to the community. As I said, I will spend, sorry, let me get my slides moving. I will spend around 20 minutes on this. The Digital Europe program that is currently running, starting in 2021, has taken the baton, so to speak, from the Connecting Europe facility that preceded it to continue providing to the public administration and private sector in Europe the so-called building blocks. And I want to start by explaining what the concept of a building block is very briefly. I think the first comment I want to make on this is that a building block is not a end-to-end solution. So as the name suggests already, it is about components which are a little bit different in general from libraries, although they could contain libraries as well. So it's a wider concept than just a simple reusable library. That provides a set of standards, of specifications, even legal frameworks in some cases, software products and or services around those standards and products that can help you address a particular need, which typically is a rather common need in public administration and in communication between IT systems, whether it has to do with electronic signatures, with electronic identification, or in the case of eDelivery, with secure exchange of data or documents across the internet. How do the building blocks propose to address this idea of providing solutions that are reusable, that are interoperable, that are simply there to be taken from the shelf in a certain sense of the word by European projects? Well, by mainly focusing on open standards and technical specifications that are available and that can be used in all sectors of interest, let's say, in the Union. So they are completely generic. There is no sector-specific development that is included in these building blocks, so that whatever the project that you might have to deal with is, you will find the solution a good fit. Of course, it will also mean that everything which is sector specific, which is project specific, which is member state specific, which is communication specific, will need to be built on top of the building blocks or alongside the building blocks. But nevertheless, you will find them to not introduce any barriers in the way you would like to work with them. The reason why the building blocks were created more than 7 years ago and why they continue to be sustained from public funding is to promote interoperability across borders and across sectors, because what we saw, of course, over time is that each project that is initiated in general in public administration, but not only in public administration, will create its own small universe where member states, commission, private sector can exchange data, can deal with authentication, with signatures in a specific way. But then interconnecting different projects becomes problematic, because every time the standards that are used for these functions are not similar, and then adaptations are needed, which are very costly and maybe you can still connect 1, 2, 3 projects, but then this is not at all scalable. You cannot just keep going in this way forever. You really need to build on common and shared standards. This is the world we like to promote. This is the world we like to encourage you to join, and that's why we are here and we are developing the building block. How do you reuse a building block? How do you use actually a building block? Well, in principle, you have 3 options. The most typical one is that you buy. This is, let's say, in inverted commas. It can be free. So when we say buy here, we don't just mean buy for money, but you simply go to one of the available solutions, and if it's of course commercial product, it will have a cost. If it's an open source product, then it will be for free. But then you will have to, of course, look into the support arrangements and so forth as usual. You can reuse sample software provided through the building blocks themselves, which is, of course, at the moment provided by the European Commission from public funding, but this, of course, could evolve over time as well. And finally, you can also build your own solution from scratch to be conformant to the specifications defined in the various building blocks. We are here to support you regardless of which is the option you want to go ahead with. And we are very happy with anything you choose. The goal, of course, remaining that we build systems using the same standards. This is clearly what we hope to see. This is a little bit of look from the beginning to today at the level of uptake of building blocks. I want to underline here that this is not just talking about eDelivery itself, but it's talking about a wider family of building blocks. And you can see that in the 7 years of existence, 338 projects to date, at least according to our tracking, which is imperfect, but it is the number we have. Are reusing already a building block, and then you have various other numbers of projects that are committed to analyze or to reuse one of the building blocks, or even in many cases multiple building blocks. And we saw roughly a 150% increase in the reuse of building blocks since 2018. Also, you see just some sample sector names that we have on the slide, but the list, I can assure you, is much longer than the 5 you see over here. And clearly the building blocks were found to be suitable by essentially all projects that started working with them. With this, I move to eDelivery itself, where we are all about exchanging data and documents reliably and securely over, in principle, an open network. Of course, it can also be a closed network, but then possibly eDelivery is not necessarily required if you already have a closed network with security there. So typically, when you need to exchange data over an insecure public network, that's when eDelivery becomes quite interesting. And the 4 features that we promote regarding the building block are the ones that you see on my screen. I have already mentioned interoperability quite a bit, so I will skip that already. When we talk about scalability and performance, this speaks mainly about network scalability. So you can start with a network that has a few nodes, but you can rest assured that you can grow your network if and when the time comes to tens or even hundreds of nodes without being in any case limited by the technology, by the standards. And we actually have parts of our specifications that cater for this large scale use when you have hundreds of nodes, and then specific discovery options are made available that might not be required when you're talking about a smaller network. Security and accountability is also at the core of the building block, because we want to make sure that we use modern security standards in order to ensure that the communication is properly encrypted, digitally signed, insured, and all of the specifications we have, we take care that they are updated to the latest standards as a general maintenance goal. Furthermore, the model of eDelivery also provides an acknowledgement of receipt, which is digitally signed with the private key of the receiver, which works a little bit like in the paper world, and I will come to this analogy a bit more in the next slide. When you send a registered letter, you receive confirmation that it was successfully delivered to the intended recipient. We have pretty much the same functionality embedded into the eDelivery standards. Finally, I covered this as well a little bit before. We are completely vendor and platform agnostic. We don't want to build a community around the product. We want to build a community around a standard or set of standards, to be precise, and therefore not create a situation of vendor lock-in. So we welcome very much if some of you are also software developers and you want to create products based on our specifications to get in touch with us. It is always welcome that we have new options to use eDelivery on board. With this, I will spend a few minutes just explaining the eDelivery model, what eDelivery is and what eDelivery isn't. I think that's quite important so that you have the right mental model for what we are a solution to and what we are not a solution to. And I think the best analogy that we can present to you is that with the paper delivery, with the postal system, where just like in the case of eDelivery, there is not a single postal system that carries all the mail that has to be carried in the world. There are competing postal systems. I will not name names, but I'm sure you can have examples popping up in your head quite easily. And any of these postal systems essentially works in the way that you can see here, which is there is a message, well, symbolically speaking, a message. It can be a package, it can be something big, small, with a lot of information, with very little information, with let's call them attachments in case we're talking about a set of documents that are all posted together, etc., that are prepared by the sender. This is not, of course, the job of the postal systems, and similarly, it's not the job of eDelivery. We're not trying to solve the problem of what you want to write in your own message. Then you also look for a destination address because you need to post your message to a certain address, to a certain recipient. We provide some assistance here as well, especially in some cases, but you can also use your own address book solutions. You are not tied to the options that we provide. And then you will put the message or the package in an envelope. And this is quite an important step because that's when the message becomes a black box. The post system does not want, need, or should know what you put in your envelope. The only part of the information relevant to the postal system is what you write on the envelope. And it's very much the same situation in the case of eDelivery. We need the details of the sender, we need the details of the recipient, and then the job of eDelivery and of the post system in the analogy is to carry the message using or in a transparent way from a sending post office or even post box if you want to a receiving post box or post office. So eDelivery really shares the same borders as the post system. We take the message, we move it from one post office to another post office, and there the one on the receiving end will take care of delivering the message to its recipient, possibly using different addressing system than the one on the sender side. But in any case, it is a particular local connection that is in place at the destination, at the place of destination. And finally, of course, the intended recipient normally delivers the message, or is delivered the message, sorry. Even though it's not represented here, in case of registered letters, which is always enabled with eDelivery, you also have a reverse path for acknowledgement of receipt. The same model shown in a bit more technical way is here on the next slide, where you see the access points. This time we turned properly to eDelivery. We're no longer in the paper world, but in an electronic world. We operate with concepts similar to the post offices, which we call access points. And those access points, there are access points on the side of both the sender and the recipient. And of course, there will be multiple senders and recipients with the roles being reversible at any moment, just again, like in the postal world. And the access points will deal with the communication over the insecure network by applying the encryption and signature standards that are part of eDelivery, and also dealing with preparing and sending the acknowledgement of receipt. So what does this process look like in a bit more detail? As I said, the sender will, just like in the paper case, prepare a message and submit it to its own access point, to its local access point, which will validate it, sign it, encrypt it, send it to the counterpart access point on the receiving side, which will do the reverse process of decrypting it, of verifying the signature, decompressing it if it's compressed, and eventually doing an extra thing, which is to send the acknowledgement of receipt. And the last step, if everything went well, is to hand it over to the intended recipient. And here's yet another view of the same process where we go to a more architectural display. And here you have what we call backends in a very generic sense, which are standalone IT systems, which have nothing to do with eDelivery, which pre-exist or could be built alongside eDelivery, depends on the case, which predate the concern about using an access point. And those backends will no longer be connected with each other, which would be, let's call it a two-corner model, but instead, we introduce a connection that goes through the eDelivery layer, which turns this model into what we call the four-corner model. So you no longer connect backends to each other, you connect them through the intermediate access points that are called here, labeled here, corners 2 and corners 3. So you have each of the two backends connected to its local access point, which can be completely different software. So it doesn't, the two sides, the corners 2 and 3, do not have to choose the same piece of software. They can very well choose different software. As long as the two products are conformant to the eDelivery standards, they can communicate very well. And the connection to the access point will be proprietary to the product that is chosen. So this is not defined by the eDelivery standard. It is completely open-ended, and each product will have its own options for connection. Of course, my colleague Joanna will take you through a demonstration that uses the sample software that we create in the building block called Domibus, which has its own specific interfaces towards the backend that Joanna will briefly mention. This is just the particularity of our product. Other products will have various other choices. And the same process, you can see it here as well. You have the backend preparing the message, sending it to the access point through a backend interface. Then you have the access point on the C2 side, sending the message to the access point on the C3 side through the AS4 standard, which is part of eDelivery, acknowledgement being produced and sent back in a synchronous way, and then the C3 access point delivering the message or notifying the backend that the message was received. Both modes are of course possible. I mentioned that the acknowledgement is sent synchronously. However, the eDelivery communication at the business level is asynchronous. So you will have one message from a sender to the recipient. There is a technical acknowledgement that is synchronous, but that will not contain business information. It will only contain a digital signature of the hash of the incoming message. And then if the receiver wants to send a message back at the business level to reply to what it received, then this will be a separate transaction with its own life cycle. Finally, I come to the last slide of my presentation, which is about the service offering that the building block currently has on offer to all of you. In addition to the sample software, which I already mentioned, which is available for free. We also take care of the technical specifications, and we have a process of updating them on a regular basis. We then have certain services that can help when dealing with operations. So we have a PKI service for those of you who would like to obtain certificates from us, which is free, but those are certificates that will not be issued by a publicly trusted certification authority. They will be, let's say, a baseline level of certificates that you can obtain. And of course, using any CA on the market is equally an option when you want to use eDelivery. We have what is called the SML, Service Metadata Locator Service, which is useful in case you want to operate an eDelivery network with several tens or upwards of 100 nodes. It's not mandatory, but at some point it becomes relevant. So this is a service we host, which you can also use for free. We then have connectivity and conformance testing services. These are different, these serve different purposes. Connectivity testing is a little bit what Joanna will be doing today together with you, namely to make sure that an access point that you configured can successfully communicate with another eDelivery access point hosted at the commission. Whereas the conformance testing service is relevant for those of you, if any, that are developing products conformant to the eDelivery specifications and would like to test your product against a set of test assertions that we have developed in order to provide a conformance statement in regards to your product. Finally, we have training and employment assistance and business hours service desk for any type of technical questions. And as for webinars such as this one and bilateral meetings, if need be, and so forth, we have our stakeholder management services that are responsible for the webinar that you see to say that you are attending right this instant, so to speak. Which also have a number of other elements that they can offer to you as a set of stakeholders of the eDelivery building block. Finally, I said that it was a last slide, but it seems I made a small mistake. So indeed, this shows you the evolution of AS4 conformance solutions that we saw starting in 2016, reaching today 30 products that are conformant to our specifications, which you can see on the left-hand side, where you see a screenshot of the page where we keep track of this. With this, I will thank you for your attention and welcome my colleague Ioana Drăgușanu to do the nice technical work that I think most of you are here for.
Thank you, Bogdan. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Now that you learned from my colleague Bogdan about eDelivery and the service offering of eDelivery, it is my goal in the next 45 minutes to show you how quick and easy it is to actually get started with eDelivery and to send your first AS4 message. So I will share my screen. This is hands-on, so you can follow the steps and do your own sending of AS4 message. And for this, I will first explain you a bit what you already saw from Bogdan about the messaging infrastructure of eDelivery, which follows the four-corner model. In the four-corner model, we have two backend systems, C1 and C4, which were developed totally independent from each other. And these two backend systems would like to exchange messages in a secure and reliable way. For this, each backend system connects to one access point, to one AS4 access point, and we'll exchange messages using the access point via the AS4 protocol, which offers reliability and security. We will use in this webinar we will use Domibus, which is the right here. So we will use Domibus, which is the sample implementation and the open source project of an AS4 access point maintained by the European Commission. Domibus may be used, and it is used in production, and in a production environment. So to integrate for the two backend systems in this webinar, we will be using SOAP UI, which is an application, a free application that substitutes the corner 1 and corner 4. Domibus, for the integration with the backend systems, offers a set of default plugins that are already implemented. One web service plugin, which offers a web service interface for the backend systems to call Domibus. Then the JMS plugin, which is simply the backend system will push the message in Java queue for Domibus to pick it up and send it to the other access point. And finally, a file system plugin, which is very simple, drag and drop the file on the file system, and then the document will be sent using the AS4 protocol. Now, the webinar steps are quite simple. First, we will launch the instance. For this, we will use Domibus deployed on a Docker instance. Then we will talk a little bit about the configuration, about the P mode, and also about the digital certificates that are configured to ensure the trust. And finally, together we will exchange message between the instance that we will start using Docker container and an instance that it's already set and ready to receive messages from us. Okay, so the first step is to launch the instances. For this, we will use Docker. The Docker image is publicly available on the Docker Hub. We will deploy Domibus on Tomcat 9 with MySQL 8. So we have one image for MySQL 8 and one image for Tomcat. And we already provide a Docker Compose file that is ready to start the two containers, the two instances. So I will go now to share with you one link. This link, it is a zip archive where from where you can get all the utility, all the everything that you need for this webinar. I will share it in the chat with everyone to see. So please go to this link. I will do the same. Okay. As I said, Domibus is open source, so you always have access to the sources of the project. I will download the file. So I wait for you to pick up the webinar zip and then to download this file. I will go to the downloads where I put the file and unzip it. Okay, and here you can see two Docker Compose YAML. One is for starting one instance, what we are going to use today, and the second one is to actually start two instances. One we call C2 and the other C3, so they can exchange messages between each other. Today for the webinar, we will use one Docker instance, one Domibus deployed on the Docker instance, and we will use a test Domibus instance to send messages over the internet. So I will open the webinar utils. And I will go, so to start the instance, we go to this folder where we downloaded the webinar. I will open a terminal. And go to the folder. Okay. So right here we have the Docker Compose that I explained you that will start the Docker instance. Let's have a look at the Docker Compose. It starts two Docker containers, one with MySQL and one with Tomcat. And the Tomcat container will have Domibus deployed on it, while the MySQL will have the database that Domibus is using. So to start this, you can copy the command from the webinar util, and it is very simple. Docker compose up -d, it is to detach, to be able to close the terminal. So as you know, the prerequisite for this webinar was to get the Docker images that are used. I will go now to show you in the Docker desktop. Right here, I already have the Docker images because I downloaded them previously as recommended in the before starting the webinar. But if you did not already download, then don't worry because the images will be downloaded. It will just take a little bit longer for the containers to start. I will go to the containers right now in Docker. And as you can see, we have two containers. And one, as I already explained, it is for MySQL, the first one, and the second one, it is for Tomcat. And right now, the MySQL database is starting, and the Tomcat container is waiting for it to start. So in a few minutes, we will have Domibus instance up and running in a Docker container. Now, I will go back a little bit to the slides until it starts. And I will talk a little bit about the P mode configuration. The P mode configuration, P mode comes from processing mode. It is actually a set of parameters. It is like a contract between two access points to be able to exchange user messages, to define the parameters to exchange user messages. Now in the P mode, we define first we define the two access points. For this demo, for this webinar, we named them Red Gateway and Blue Gateway. And here we have the endpoint where the two access points talk to each other, and also some party ID and the type of this party to know. To know the type of the party when the messages are exchanged, if they are initiator or if they are responder. Then I will talk also a little bit about certificates. One of the important configuration is configuring the certificates on the two access points. So it is very important that C2, the Blue Gateway, has its own private certificate and has the public certificate of the Red Gateway, while on the other side, the Red Gateway needs the private certificate, its own private certificate, and also the public certificate of Blue Gateway. I will walk you a little bit through how a message is exchanged. So what happens when we submit a message from C1, the message will arrive in C2. And the first step is to validate that all the metadata for this message is there, and that we have the necessary information to send the message to the other access point. Then the next step is to compress the payload, because it's always better to send compressed. This is configurable in the P mode, but it is recommended to use compression. After that, the message is signed with the private certificate of the sending access point, so that on the other side, the receiving access point having the public certificate will be able to say, yes, this message comes from the sender, and the sender, it is indeed the one that signed this certificate. The next step after signing, it is the encryption. The encryption, it is done with the public certificate of the receiver. This will ensure that only the receiver will be able, having his own private certificate, to decrypt and understand this message. And finally, we identify the access point, the recipient's access point. We do have also some dynamic discovery in case the recipient access point is not configured in the P mode. But if it is statically configured, it is picked up from the P mode, and then it is the message, it is sent to the recipient access point. On the other side, on the receiver, the receiver, the access point, receiving access point will receive the encrypted message and will use his own private certificate to decrypt the message. After that, we'll use the public certificate of the sending access point to verify the signature and to make sure that the sender, it's really who he said to be. And finally, to store the payload, it will decompress the payload and will store the payload either in the database or on the file system. There are several other validations performed on the message metadata. And finally, if everything is okay, the message is accepted and an acknowledgement is sent to the sender's access point. Now, this acknowledgement is sent synchronously as a response to the initial request to receive a user message. And it is very important to know that the acknowledgement, it is signed with the private certificate of CT. Including the acknowledgement, it is signed, and like this we have the no reliability assured. After that, the message is archived and it can be pushed to C4, or we can the access point on C3 can store it for a longer period, and the end backend system C4 can pick it up when it is convenient for him. Okay, so these are the stages for sending a message. Now I will go back to my Docker instances. And right here, we can see that Domibus has started. I will go to in the browser. So maybe first I show you so that it's clear for everyone. Right here in the Docker Compose, I will open this file. And you can see that we created one MySQL and one Tomcat. And MySQL, it is linked to the host port 3406 and to 8082 on for Tomcat. So now if we go to port 8082, because by default Domibus starts on port 8080 on Tomcat, but we mapped this port to the host on 8082. So now we go in the browser and we no longer need this. We go to localhost 8082/Domibus, and we should see the administration console.
Joanna has lost her internet connection, so we are waiting for her to reconnect.
Indeed, and just to add insult to injury, I was speaking for 1 minute on mute, on hardware mute, in my case. So yes, I was just announcing the same to myself, apparently. So let's give her a few minutes to reconnect. Unfortunately, these technical glitches sometimes take place, and we express our apologies if she is not back within 2 or 3 minutes. In the meantime, if you have any questions to what you've heard so far, it might be a good moment where you could ask them. To the extent that I can, I will answer them, of course. Otherwise, please take a coffee break, and if Jona is back, we'll make sure she gives you a few minutes to come back if you've left the webinar temporarily.
Hello.
Hello, Joanna. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. I don't know exactly when I was cut off.
We are not sure either anymore, I'm afraid. Please maybe give 1 more minute. We let people know that if they want to take a small coffee break, you will give them a few seconds to return to their screens. And I suggest you pick up where you were about 5 minutes ago.
Okay,
The time
thank
we
you.
lost you for. So please find that place and share your screen. And I think if you take a bit of an extra step or two, people will. I mean, it's better to go further back than not back enough.
Okay, so I am sharing right now. Should I continue?
Yes, I think you can resume.
Okay, so I have okay. When I was trying to, thank you very much. Okay, so now I will go back to in the browser and try to open the WebLogic, the Domibus console. As I I said, but I don't know if it got to you, we configured the host of Domibus to be on the host machine on 8082. And if we click on localhost 8082/Domibus, then the admin console appears. Now I will be logged in because I already did this, but I will log out. And normally you should see this screen, this login screen, where you have the credentials admin and the password 123456. 123456. Click login. Okay, and I will show you that you have these credentials in the webinar utils. So if you want to try it. And the first window that we see here, it's the messages window. For now, we don't have any message because we did not exchange. We have Domibus deployed, but this Domibus instance is not configured to talk to any other Domibus or any other AS4 implementation instance, AS4 access point. So what we do is go to the P mode, to the processing mode, and go to current, and okay, now we should upload the P mode. We click on upload, choose file, and from the webinar, if we go to downloads and to the zip that we downloaded, you will see that you have in there P mode, a folder named P mode, with two P modes. One is for the blue gateway and one is for the red gateway. The Domibus instance that we prepared to receive messages from us during this webinar, it is the red gateway. So we will configure our instance to be the blue gateway. You can put any description here. And when you click OK, you should see this window with the access point uploaded. Now, what we have to do in the sample P mode is to configure the endpoints. And as we already saw for the administration console of Domibus, we have our Domibus local blue gateway on local host port 8082. And we have the red gateway, which is the machine that we configured for this webinar. It is in the webinar utils. I will copy it from here and also put it in the chat so you can copy paste it from there. Okay, I will go to the chat and put it for everyone. This is the machine. I will go back to my P mode right here, and instead of red gateway, I will configure the endpoint of the red gateway. Now that we have the two endpoints, the red gateway and our instance, the blue gateway, our local host, I will wait for you just a bit to have the time to fill in. And then we will click save. Add another description, endpoints. Okay, so right now, this access point is configured to be able to exchange messages with the red gateway, which is the machine that we prepared for this webinar. Red gateway already has the public certificate of our blue gateway. And if we look at the trustors right here, we will see, one second, that we have the public certificate. We also have the public certificate of the red gateway. So the certificates were already configured, were pre-configured for us to have for it to be easier. And blue gateway trusts the red gateway, while the red gateway trusts the blue gateway. Okay, now it is all set to exchange messages. And if we go back to the presentation, I will go back a little bit. before the runtime process. Right here, we are ready to use the SOAP UI to exchange messages. Okay, so I will, we were right here with the P mode configuration. I will open the SOAP UI. This is just a tool that is used as substitute for C1 and can also be used as substitute for C4. It is in the prerequisites for this webinar. And now the first thing is to load the project, the sample project that is prepared in the webinar utils to be able to exchange messages. I will go to File, Import Project. Here I have to go to Downloads, where I put my folder, and I will choose the AS4 Test Guide SOAP UI project. This is a test guide for anyone trying to get started with the with Domibus with the web service plugin. In AS4 test guide, if you go to web service submission and then to business scenario, click on the test steps, and the first step in this guide is to actually send a message. Double click send message, and you can see here that we are going to try to send a message from Domibus Blue to Domibus Red. Yeah, it is the from party and the to party. And our message will have some payload, which is base64 encoded payload that can be easily decoded on the internet. I put here, this is the payload that we are sending, and this is the payload, the base64 encoded payload that we have right here in the webinar. Now, to send this message, the message is ready, but we have to fill in the URL where our Domibus has started. HTTP localhost 8082. I will wait for you to fill in this. This depends on the port that we can start Domibus on. For example, when we use WebLogic, it starts on port 7001, and this is why it cannot be predefined. So right now we are ready to send a message from our Domibus to the red Domibus. One thing that I forgot to mention, yes, indeed, it is the message information right here. So I will stop this message. The message information, it is optional, but has the message ID. And the message ID, it is unique, so it cannot be duplicated. Because I already sent one message with webinar test underscore, that message that I try to send will fail. So I will put here something like webinar test September, I don't know, 45690. And then I will try to send this message. Make it here. And the response that I get, it is exactly the message ID that I initially sent. Now, if I go to the administration console of Domibus and I go to the messages, I will see, as I said, the message webinar test September, and the number, it is acknowledged, it was successfully sent, while the other message, because it is a duplicate, it went in waiting for retry, and it will try to resend it until it will fail. So if we go to the P mode and we have a look at the retry mechanism, we can see that it is configured to try for 12 minutes, to try 4 times, and constant. which means every 3 minutes it will try to send the message, and after that it will fail, saying that it is a duplicate message and cannot be sent. To avoid such errors, the message info can be left out, and then Domibus will generate a unique message ID. I'm sending another message, and for this one you can see that the message ID was generated. It is a unique message ID generated by Domibus. If we go, I copied it, and if we go in the admin console and look at the messages, we also have this message. Now I will open a different tab, and I will go to the red access point. I will copy it entirely. Let's see if the messages arrived. So if we go here, and we log in, okay, we can see that we have the message that we sent, the one that was initially sent, that was generated the ID. We have the webinar test September 456 and so, and we also have one winner. Congratulations! Somebody managed to send the test message, webinar September test 123 123. So it is from blue gateway to red gateway. I will click search. Okay, thank you very much. So I see that several people managed to send messages. Congratulations. It is that easy. Just start the Docker image, and then you have a Domibus that can exchange messages. Now I will go back a little bit to the presentation. I already told you about the processing mode, which is the contract between the two access points to exchange user messages, a set of parameters to define if compression is enabled, if the endpoints, to configure the endpoints, who is the initiator and who is the responder, and many other parameters. Then the digital certificates, which I will explain in a bit exactly how they are used. And if we look at the runtime process, I spent some time here while I was disconnected, so I will go through it again. The message is sent from C1 to C2, to the access point, and the first step is for the access point to validate that the user message has everything that it's needed. Do you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was a bit afraid it will disconnect me again. Thank you. So the message is received by C2 from C1, and the metadata of the message, it is validated to make sure that it is according to the P mode, and the message can be sent. After this, the compression is applied depending on the configuration of the P mode. It can be enabled or disabled, but we recommend that the compression is of the payload are enabled, because it always reduces the size of the message and send less on the network. After this, the next step, it is signing the compressed message. And the signing, it is performed with the private certificate of the sending access point. So the sending access point has his own private certificate and will sign the message saying that he is the sending access point. Then the message after the signing, it is encrypted, and the encryption, it is done with the public certificate of the receiving access point. This will ensure that only the receiving access point will be able, having his own private certificate, to decrypt the message and understand the message. After the encryption, we get the endpoint of the recipient access point. And finally, we send the encrypted message to the recipient's access point. On the other side, on the receiver, on the recipient's access point, we receive the message and it is encrypted. We have the private certificate, our own private certificate on the receiver, and we are able to decrypt the message. Then the next step is to verify the signature, and we use the public certificate of the sender to verify the signature of the sender. After this, we decompress the payload if they were compressed. We validate that the the message has all the necessary information, everything that we agreed according to the P mode. And if everything is okay, then we accept the message on the receiver's access point, and we store it either on the database or on the file system. After this, an acknowledgement, it is sent to the sender access point saying that the message was received successfully. Now it is very important to know that this acknowledgement, it is signed with the private certificate of the receiver's access point to make sure that the repudiation it is ensured. After this, the message can stay on the receiver's access point and be picked up by C4, or the recipient access point can be configured to actually push the message to C4. So this is the flow of a message between two access points. And if we go back to the administration console, we can have a look here. So as you could see, we have here the messages received, and on our instance where we are the sender, we have two messages acknowledged. Okay. Do you have questions so far, or should I continue with the?
Iona, there are no questions in the Q&A section, so I think you can continue, but let us remind the audience that they can ask questions in the Q&A section if needed.
Okay, thank you. So a little bit about Domibus release 5.0. This is the latest release that we had in June. We are now preparing for the 5.1 release. Domibus implements the eDelivery AS4 profile version 1.15, which is a profile of the AS4 of the larger OISIS AS4 profile, part of the EBMS3 core profile. Now Domibus can be deployed on Domibus 5.0, can be deployed on Tomcat 9, WebLogic 12, and Wildfly 26. And as databases, Domibus supports MySQL and Oracle, MySQL 8 and Oracle 19. As technologies, the profile, the AS4 profile is requiring SOAP 1.2 with attachments. And for implementation, we are using Apache CXF, which is a mature and open source framework with a large community behind that is developing actively and solving issues and security problems if they appear. Then we use the WSS4J, which is the Java implementation for the main security standards, WS security header, and also the WS policy, which provides the format for defining the security algorithms for both signing and encryption. For compression, we only support gzip. This is according to the profile. And I already mentioned the 3 plugins, web service, file system, and JMS plugins. So just a quick look to the anatomy of a message. First, we have the header where we have some metadata for the message, and then this is the security header where we see the encrypted key, the encrypted data, and the signature.